everybody, Steve Politi from NJ Advanced Media, and welcome back to the We're in College Football Hell podcast. I am joined, as always, Keith Sargent and James Cratchin. Fellas, the best way I can describe how I feel right now, okay? This is like when your wife drags you to a Broadway show, and it's a bad musical, and then the lights go on at intermission, and you walk out to the lobby, and you have that brief feeling like, thank God I am out of that theater. And as soon as you think that, it slaps you in the face. You're like, oh no, I've got to go back in. It's only half over, right? That we are at intermission of this Rutgers season, guys. There are 6 games left on the season. It's inconceivable to me. I mean, they're 20 lost to Illinois. 38-17.
I will say
23 points they're 23-point underdogs to Maryland. They play Wisconsin, Sarge.
I'll say this, Steve. It's a great analogy. The problem is, in the theater, you're not allowed to use your phone. You're not allowed to, at least with these Rutgers games, we're allowed to surf the internet, use our phones, or you can go get some popcorn. We can do other stuff, watch, other games on TV. So, I'm always the eternal optimist. So I'll say that Rutgers, is a little bit, watching Rutgers football, bad Rutgers football, is a little bit better than the analogy that you just gave.
6 games left, Cratch.
I was thinking about this last night. Not only there's 6 games left, but Penn State is not in the playoff hunt really anymore. Wisconsin's not in the playoff hunt. Maryland and Northwestern are good teams, but they have no juice because they've lost games early on in the season. I mean, I guess maybe Michigan's in the hunt. Michigan State is out of the hunt. I mean, it's not even like there's going to be a week where we can actually pretend like, hey, we're covering a team that is like right in the thick of things, might win the Big Ten and might go to the playoff. Like, it's just going to be drudgery, it seems, unless something dramatic changes, which I just, at this point, I don't see what's going to change.
All right. So what is there? 38-17 lost to Illinois. What is there left to play for? I mean, we're 1-5. The fan base is in full revolt. I mean, what do we got left? Anything?
I'll start. I think we keep on going back to Sikowski, and we keep on going back to Cratch's film review, which I'm not even kidding. Like, he really did point out that Sikowski showed a lot of glimpses, especially during that 9-for-9 run during late in the first half. I think that's probably going to be the thing that Chris Ash will be harping on, and Rutgers fans can maybe take some solace in is Sikowski getting better. By that same token, you're also going to need to see other playmakers. Shameen Jones, Bo Melton, those types of guys, Blackshear, Pacheco, all those types of guys step up and show you some glimpses of the future, because otherwise, there's not a whole lot to hang your hat on going into the second half of the season.
Cratch, you got anything? What is on your list of things that we've got here to get through this in these next 6 games?
I think it's Sikowski. I think it's look. I actually rewatching the game. I thought he made a lot of progress. I talked to someone who said he felt like around the program and said it felt like it clicked for him on Saturday. I know that he threw 3 interceptions. The first one wasn't as bad as I thought it was, the one down deep inside their own territory. I think it was just he held on the ball too long. It was not a great play call for that situation. The second interception was, what it looked like it was back in week 2, week 3. He was just locked on a guy, forcing a throw that wasn't there. The third one, Jonathan Lewis, tight end Jonathan Lewis, kind of got bumped off his route down by the goal line. Things are congested. You're just trying to make something happen at that point, 5 minutes to go. But the 9-for-9 drive was sensational. He actually carried it over into the second half, and then Rutgers, the penalties, the incompetency, the bad luck, all kind of piled onto them at that point. I think that, look, Eddie Lewis is starting to make plays. Bo Melton, Shameen Jones, Travis Vokalek stepped up and sort of looked like the guy he was in the spring. So I think there are some positive things on the offense. I just come back to the fact that I do not think the offensive line is ever going to be good enough to put Rutgers in a position where Art gets to throw for 350 yards and they score 30, 40 points. And even if they lose the game, people get excited about that. I just don't see that. And this defense, it's become a parody of itself at this point.
Yes, we need to talk about the defense. And I Sarge mentioned the film review, which I think you agree, Sarge, is really the last reason to get up on a Monday morning. It's the last thing.
I struggled this morning. I was,
like
the film review got me through it.
9 runs for 40 or more yards. And this is my favorite. I'm going to actually direct quote from the film review. The Scarlet Knights have plenty of veterans on defense, and they could prevent many of these big runs by just getting in position and getting in the way. So right now, this is a team. It's not a team that can't get out of its own way. It's a team that can't get anybody else's way. I mean, some of those runs were just like, what in the world were they coached here? How did this happen? I mean, Cratch, what happened on defense?
I don't know. I mean, I go back to the first big run, which was I'm pulling the game notes right now. It was Reggie Corbin's 52-yard run on Illinois' first touchdown drive. So they run stretch to the short side of the field. And Reggie Corbin, to his credit, he makes a nice cutback. He makes Tyreek Maddox-Williams miss. At that point, there are 11 Rutgers defenders on the field. 10 of them are to his left shoulder.
He's at the other hash mark, too. It's not like he's.
Exactly. He's at the other hash mark. 10 of them are to his left shoulder. Kevin Wilkins penetrated from defensive end. He kind of went in too deep. He kind of got washed out of the play. He makes Maddox-Williams miss. All of a sudden, he's got 10 guys to his left, the Atlantic Ocean to his right, his quarterback, A.J. Bush, lead blocking for him, and Isaiah Wharton all the way down on the other side of the field getting just mauled on a stalk block. Goodbye. I mean, The only reason why it wasn't a touchdown was because Avery Young, to his credit, a freshman who's taken a lot of lumps and is going to continue to take lumps, but the kid keeps playing hard, takes a good pursuit angle, is able to force him out 52 yards downfield. But it's just like it's basic football. Like the entire defense, and I asked Chris Ash after the game, I said, I get that you're young, but all of your young guys are pretty much playing on offense. Your older guys are on defense, and that's just like basic, and it happened time and time again. It's like there's no safety support. There's the line gets no penetration. The linebackers are out of place. It's just like, what are you guys doing out there? I mean, right. Illinois was running base run plays that people run in high school, and they were getting 70-yard touchdowns from them.
This is that's a great analysis right there. And but this is going to be the question to go back to what you said. What's there to look for in the second half? It's development. And you do a great job on a report card every week, and you talk about improvement, and we haven't seen a whole lot of it. But Chris Ash from day one talked about he never promised that they're going to get these big time recruiting classes from day one. That takes time. But he has said, and go back to just Google it. Like he said, this is going to be a developmental program. We have not seen Kyle Flood's most recent recruiting classes, and I reported a couple of weeks ago, just the lack of retention, in a lot of those recruiting classes. But they still have some holdovers. We haven't seen a whole lot of improvement from those guys, and certainly from Chris Ash's first recruiting class, first two maybe 2016 and 2017. We haven't seen a whole lot of development. So especially on defense, can we see some of that from week to week? Can we see some improvement? I think that's going to be another big key for the second half of the year.
And the thing that Ash keeps coming back on to now, this is the answer to the question, like, well, what happened? It has been consistently, well, when you're down, we're not making any excuse, but here's an excuse. When you're down 16 scholarship players on defense, this is what I don't know how that excuse makes up for what we saw in the game. I just don't, I get it. The program is low on depth, but there are 11 players on the field, and 10 of them are out of position on a basic run. The kid takes a shotgun handoff and just runs untouched up the middle of the field for 73 yards. Illinois does this. I mean, what this is not.
I thought one of the new kind of things that were tagged on to that line was the idea of competition. It was almost like, well, these guys who are on defense know that we have literally no one to replace them. So they just it gets back to the whole thing why I asked Chris Ash a couple weeks ago, is his team quit on the coaching staff? And he said no. And then, yes, they played hard against Indiana. But it seems like at the same time, competition, just because your team is I understand look, they can't make these excuses. No fan wants to hear them. But I understand the idea of these guys are tired. We don't have depth. I understand the idea of these guys he can't say this, but we can. These guys just aren't that talented in certain key spots. But the idea that like, well, there's no one else to push them, so that's just what we have to. I mean, that's not good.
No, that's definitely not good. All right, let's just dive right into the true or false, because you know what's coming, and you know that what the fan base wants to talk about. So I'll get right to it. True or false? If Rutgers finishes 1-11, Chris Ash gets fired. Your answer this week, Sarge, is
false.
Cratch? That's even a better answer.
That's good. That's a good answer.
True or false?
Look, I'm going to say false, because here's the thing. We've written about it. We've discussed this. The buyout is very prohibitive. Pat Hobbs believes in Chris Ash. Pat Hobbs doesn't want to make a move. The big money people, they still believe in Chris Ash. Archie's not going to – I get all that. But I feel like what I saw Saturday and what I look ahead and see potentially in the final 6 games, we are getting to a point where I think the conditions are getting very dangerous for Rutgers. There's massive fan apathy. People are angry. The team is not competitive. There doesn't look like there's like any chance. I mean, I had someone tell me, what's going to happen when 70 to 80% of the like what happens if Penn State basically has a whiteout on senior night and James Franklin's throwing the ball up 50 points in the fourth quarter? Like, where are you going to stand? And at this point, if they don't win another game and the defense plays the way it does and Art makes strides, but there's no like signature. I mean, it just feels like what do you have? I just think like the farther they get down this road, things just get more emotional and they get more hairy. And when things get emotional and things get hairy in college sports, sometimes rash decisions get made. So I'm going to say false, and everything logical says that Chris Ash is the guy they're going to stick with and they're going to go forward with this. But things are going to get dicier if something doesn't change here.
I think things have already gotten dicey. And I would have put it at, what I say, in the first episode, 2%, when we were kind of laughing off the idea. I mean, I think it's moving into the 30s. And this is why. I mean, I think you're just seeing now, you mentioned like the big money guys are still on board. I don't know that that's true. I think there's a lot of angry people. I think there's a lot of people who are angry at what they saw, and just the general sense. If that Audi Club is empty, it's a sign that, you know, people are fed up with this. And I get emails and tweets, and you can't walk out into the parking lot after the game without someone, you know, tackling you and saying, you know, I'm done. I'm turning my season tickets in. I'm furious. I'm not giving another penny while Chris Ash is here. So now you're looking at, all right, here's the other side of this. So all right, I get it. It's a buttload of money to do this, but what is the cost going to be if you don't do it? How many season ticket holders are you going to lose? How many donors are you going to lose? And remember, it's not like it's that much cheaper a year from now, right? It's good. It's $2 million cheaper. Another year of salary. You still have to buy out the staff. You still have to pay for the new guy. I mean, I agree with you that the answer still is false at this point, but if you start looking at it like what the damage to the program is going to be, what's going to happen long term, I don't think it's as crazy as we thought it was, a couple weeks ago. Sarge, you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I say false only because, I mean, people can read between the lines. I mean, it's not like I haven't talked on the record with Pat Hobbs in recent weeks. So, I mean, you can read between the lines. I still say false. And that is an indication of that Pat Hobbs, that Chris Ash is still Pat Hobbs' guy. I haven't seen anything at this point that he's going to back away from it. That being said, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, the fans in 2018 have more power than ever before. We saw it with the Giants a year ago. We see it all over the country. The fans speak, and they speak by not showing up to games, by essentially revolting. And, and the fan apathy and the fan frustrations, that has a huge impact on recruiting, has an impact on the development of the program going forward. All that type of stuff is going to come into play, and it could get a lot worse, over the next couple of weeks. I still say false.
Yeah.
I still think that, that Chris Ash is Pat Hobbs' guy, but I don't think it's in the 30s. I think it's about 20%, which is a lot more than it was 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Remember, you're right. He is Pat Hobbs' guy, but there are other people involved. And I just wonder what's going to happen with if he's probably still Greg Brown's guy too. Let's not forget, it wasn't just Pat Hobbs who hired Chris Ash. It was Greg Brown, the powerful board of governors, and one of the biggest donors to the program. So if he's still on board, if Hobbs is still on board, Barchi is, Barchi, nothing's going to happen. But you do wonder how much pressure. And Brown was someone told me that Brown was at the game in the Audi box watching this, and there's no question that people approached him and told him he has to be hearing this. So we got another 6 weeks of it.
And I will say this too, and another reason why I kind of still lean false is that I understand, people say they're done, but with the exception of one guy who I think would sell 10,000 season tickets in 48 hours and have this place rocking. I mean, who else are you going to be able to afford to get that's going to change anything drastically? I mean, Lance Leopold comes here, the educated fan might say, okay, in 2-3 years, we're going to be able to win 8 games because this guy's got a plan. But the casual fan is not going to go, oh, Lance Leopold, take my money now. I mean, it's not going to happen.
Who's the one guy? You didn't mention the name. Was it Politi? Politi, is it the one guy who's going to sell those tickets?
Another famous Italian from New Jersey.
With a vowel at the last name.
Yeah, that's it. All right, let's go back to the true or false just because we have to finish the show. True or false? This offense is starting to click in a meaningful way. True or false?
I'll say false, only because the first half, I mean, it's a tale of two halves. So the last 2 games, they've played, pretty well, late, Indiana second half, and then, Illinois, late, on the final drive. But, it's a complete game, and the start has been abysmal. So I can't say in a meaningful way. That was the key term of that question. So I'll say false.
Kratch, you agree?
Yeah, I'll say false. I mean, they put together 1 to 2 good drives a game. They need to do a little bit more than that, so I'll say false.
True or false? Chris Ash was correct to kick a field goal on 4th and 2 late in the game. And this, before you answer, folks, I'm sure most of you were glued to the radio after this game to listen to Chris Ash's comments. Sarge asked this question because he got booed. If you're there, it's 4th and 2. They're down. I forgot the point. Was it 21 points at the point? Whatever it was. He kicks a field goal to make it a 3-possession game or 2. I forget the exact circumstance, but it's 4th and 2, 4th and goal at the 2. And Sarge, your question.
Perfect. It was poorly phrased, and I said it, immediately after the game, and I said it, in print. It was poorly phrased. There's nothing I could do about it. I said, the problem is you should never interpret, add your opinion, insert your opinion to a question. That's, a cardinal sin. But, and I did so, and I said, basically I said the fans booed, and understandably so, and then. It didn't matter what I asked from there because I think he even cut me off from finishing the question.
Understandably so.
Yeah, it was poorly phrased, but the question was fair. And to answer your question, the true or false, here's the thing, man. I know it's a 7-3 score game. I know, you kick the field goal, it becomes 14. There's 5:40 left. The game was over, folks. And I get that, they play hard to the end. The game was over after Illinois got that touchdown with 11 minutes to go. That was I'm sorry, but there's no way Rutgers is scoring another touchdown and another field goal or another, they're not doing that. So, I get that, technically by the book, 5:40 left, you make it a 2-score game. You need a field goal anyway. I get it. I'm going to say false only because I'm going to stick to my guns and say, it's probably better to just get the touchdown there. You've seen it both ways. I watched NFL games. There was an NFL game that played out that way. Sometimes maybe if you get down to the 2-yard line, it's demoralizing to pull your offense off the field, and maybe in the long run, getting a touchdown there, going for it on 4th down gives the offense a little confidence. I'm going to say false. I get by the book, and again, it was a poorly phrased question.
I'll say true just because I don't really have an issue. Ash is right. By the book, the chart would tell him to kick the field goal. But, I mean, they kicked the field goal at 5:15. At 5:07, Mike Epstein was in the end zone after a 41-yard touchdown run. So it's it doesn't matter. I mean, this defense is a sieve. So, like, he could have scored a touchdown and gone for 2. It wouldn't mean anything.
Basically, in order for the field goal to mean anything, you kick the field goal and then you're down by 2 touchdowns. You need to get the onside kick, which the odds of that are minimal. But even if they did, or if you don't get the onside kick, then you need a 3 and out, which we saw a week ago against Indiana in one of the more meaningful spots. They couldn't get it. They couldn't stop them on 4th and 1. They jumped off sides. So just the thinking of, and I'm sorry, maybe it was just me, but I thought the game was over at that point, and you might as well just go for a touchdown.
Honestly, I think the bigger question, and I didn't realize this, and I didn't get a chance to ask in the post game, was Justin Davidowitz got hurt, tweaked something in warm up, so why did you even forget about whether or not you're kicking the field goal? I mean, why put the kid on the field to kick that field goal?
That's a great question.
If he was hurt, because, I mean, you tried the 47-yarder with Haggerty, and look, that wasn't all Ash's fault because they were trying to go make it 4-down territory, and your right tackle can't protect the screen pass. But it's just like, why even bring the kid out there if he's hurt? I know obviously it's less exertion, kick from 20 yards out than a kick from 47, but it's just it wasn't the greatest. It wasn't a horrible decision, but it wasn't great either.
Speaking of decisions, true or false, moving Jonathan Lewis to tight end was the right decision.
Yeah, I'll say true.
Yeah.
True, I think so.
Yeah. True or false, forget the 23-point line. Rutgers, Maryland will be a close game. True or false?
False.
Sorry?
I'll say true. I'm not picking them to win, but I'll say true. I mean, the one thing is I don't expect any type of atmosphere. So,
Yeah.
I can see Rutgers keeping it close.
I mean, I say false because all they do is run the ball, and now a jet sweep is being thrown into the mix. So I'm sure Rutgers is going to take 3 quarters to figure that out.
What Cratch wants to say is Piscataway High School could run on Rutgers defense right now. That's what he really wants to say, but he's too kind to say it.
I have got to come up with a way to get out of going to that game. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? No, I didn't say that out loud. True or false? Rutgers is a women's soccer school. True or false?
It's been for a while. True.
What did they do? They're in first place now? First place women's soccer team. 3 straight overtime.
Big Ten, yeah.
Look, we might have to have a podcast in mid-November, which, literally 10 people will listen to. But if they don't win the Big Ten this year, we're going to put it on Mike O'Neill. This is a great accomplishment, but, some Rutgers program at some point needs to win a Big Ten championship. This might be the team. So, now the pressure is on Mike O'Neill.
He's got to do it. It's got to be those non-revenue sports coaches, or must be the guy, lacrosse guy, oh my God, but wrestling, and it must be we need to step up here because things are getting out of hand. All right, and finally, true or false, at least the uniforms are kind of awesome. True or false?
True. I thought they looked really good. The only thing I would say is a white outline around New Jersey on the helmet. That's about it.
I'm a traditionalist. I don't want to be the guy who pees in the Cheerios, but I just like the Scarlet. I'm a traditionalist.
Yeah. Okay. All right. This is another issue. It's a minor thing, but I mean, the Blackout was kind of an embarrassment. Do they stop doing this stuff now? I mean, do you have this next year when you might only have 15,000 people in the stands? Is it a bad idea to have these promotions that are just going to make you look dumb?
It's not a bad idea, and I get it that you want to do some things. You remember, I don't even know if they still do it, but you remember at the beginning of the year they wanted to do that, fan promotion where you get points for any time the fans disrupt, force a timeout, or it results into a penalty. I don't even think they do that anymore. So you want to do some different things. If you remember, the last time they did one of these, it was the Stripe, the birthplace, and it was Michigan, and it rained. Yeah. So you had, not only did you have a lot of maize and yellow, but you had yellow raincoats. So it went off miserably. So we saw the whiteout with Penn State against Ohio State. That was spectacular, and when it works, it's great. But I don't think Rutgers is at that point right now.
No. All right, Maryland preview. We call this that things could be worse bowl. I think I would argue that as bad as this season's been, it's better to be Rutgers right now than Maryland, like with the scandal. And I mean, they killed the kid. Like Rutgers has not killed anybody yet, so they've got that going for them. The coach is suspended. Kratch, can you give me the 1 minute explanation of Maryland's situation right now?
They're very athletic. They run the football a lot. They're kind of a tough team to figure. They lost by 20 points at home to Temple. They waxed Texas. I mean, it's a matchup where I think it's a bad matchup for Rutgers because I think there's a very good chance, given kind of their spread rushing attack, that they're going to gash Rutgers. And I think the absolute last thing Rutgers really needs right now is to get its ass kicked by Maryland. And I think there's a very good chance that's going to happen.
Sarge?
Yeah, I mean, there's no joking matter. What happened at Maryland was awful. The thing is, when you compare, and these two programs are always going to be compared because they entered the Big Ten at the same time. And there's been years where, a couple of these years where Rutgers was, even with them, they beat them a couple times. That being said, certainly a lot more talent in the Maryland program. And, none of us, I don't think that DJ Durkin is going to survive this. I think, this whole investigation is a way to fire him for cause. So you get the next coach in. I think, as bad as it is, you probably take Maryland's future based on the fact that, I think they have more talent, and I think, they have the ability to, their facilities are probably even better than Rutgers, at this point.
No question.
So I would think that, their future, Maryland's future, both are present maybe, and their future, is better than Rutgers right now.
How did that happen? How did Maryland get more talent in the program by such a wide margin? I mean, according to the recruiting lists, they've been recruiting at the same level. They fired the last guy. I mean, what happened?
Two reasons. I'll say two reasons. One is, and I've written this before. You just Google some of my reporting on this. Is one, when they entered the Big Ten, they had a leg up on Rutgers because they got the loan from the Big Ten, and that was in order to kind of make their buyout. They had a $30 million buyout from the ACC. So they weren't at the financial deficit that Rutgers was when they entered. So that helped. That helped pay some bills, and that helped, be able to get a kickstart on some of the facility stuff. And then I think they, for as good as Rutgers was, in the ACC, Big East, Maryland was in the ACC, so they were able to recruit at a higher level probably going into this. That's probably basically the way it happened. If you look at Maryland across the board, they have like 17 or 20 combined Big Ten regular season, Big Ten team championships across the board, all their Olympic sports. So football might be one of their more disappointing sports, but they're still they've been competitive, and I think that's basically I think they just had a leg up on Rutgers.
Right. And it certainly, and you're Kratch, to your point, it would, if this one gets out of hand, we say this every week, but if this one gets out of hand, it will be a disaster of epic proportions. Maybe there you go. That's a podcast name. Disaster of epic proportions, a Rutgers podcast.
And I think the issue too is,
got anything else?
We mentioned about the coaching, like not only is that, but like I don't think DJ Durkin's coming back, and as good of a job as Matt Canada may be doing, you probably are going to want a completely fresh start there. And then the question is, okay, well, who is that fresh start? Is it the guy we talked about earlier, Greg Schiano? I don't think so. I mean,
can you imagine? Holy cow.
I think that the true nightmare scenario for Rutgers is not even Schiano. It's if Matt rules at Baylor and sees the NCAA hammer coming.
No, I think Schiano is a true nightmare at Maryland.
Absolutely.
You're overthinking this, Kratch.
that is
Schiano at Maryland is a true nightmare. He's going to be able to recruit there. He's going to have a facility. He's going to want to stick it to Rutgers, and that is going to be an absolute nightmare for Rutgers.
Holy cow.
I'm not saying that it's going to happen. I mean, they had an opening, a couple years ago, and Greg Schiano was on the sideline then, and they didn't take him. So I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying if it does happen, look out. It's gonna be awful.
Yikes!
If you're a Rutgers.
All right.
It'll be good for us.
Anything else?
It'll be good for us.
Yeah, it's all about us. Anything else? What do you guys got? Have a good weekend otherwise?
Yeah.
How was Charlotte? Charlotte, folks, Steve Politi, the dedication of this man, by the way, he goes from covering a crappy football game in Piscataway on Saturday, flying to Charlotte to cover a really entertaining, game.
That was a great game. Yeah.
Not the easiest game to write at the gun because, it's a 63-yard field goal to win it. Flies back Monday morning, has a 6 a.m. flight, and now he's going to the Yankee game tonight. So, I mean, the dedication of this man, forget about it.
The things I do for you, the reader and the listener.
And he's going to do Rutgers fans a solid even more. He might not go to the Maryland game on Saturday.
There you go. I'll still have to. I've been told, though, under no uncertain terms, even if I'm not there, I could be in Houston for the ALCS. I still have to watch and write about it. The instructions are clear. So whether or not I'm in the backseat of the car, driving down I-95 with you two jerks, or if I'm in Houston, I still have to watch. That's just it. All right. Hey, Crash, you got anything? Signing off?
No, I got nothing. Just keep on keeping on.
I got nothing. A Rutgers podcast.
That
All right, guys.
Great name.
Thanks for listening. Somehow, some way, we'll be back after the Maryland game to recap that one too. Bye-bye.